So if you missed that, that's my Twitter handle, that's ustwo's Twitter handle, and what I get quite a lot when we talk about our culture is that people say, oh, can I get a job there? So I have actually put our hiring page on there as well. So I'm also joined today by 4 ustwobes, which is what we call our people, so there's lots of made-up words. There's also going to be a few swear words, so ustwobes are in the sort of 10th row back there you go, so go and talk to them too. So what I'm going to talk about is actually, it's going to be a bit of zooming out and a bit of zooming in on you as individuals. So it's kind of broadly looking at what a continuous improvement culture might look like. So this is about taking some of the principles that you might be using already in your product development and applying them on a personal level and on an organizational level too. If you haven't heard of ustwo, we call ourselves a digital product studio. This is a multitude of things. It's client services work, so we have some amazing clients, people like Adidas, Google. We've got an amazing app for kids we did with Sky, and we work with startups too. People like DeepMind are also our clients. But we make mainly mobile things, but we also work with anything that has a face, so watch faces. We do lots of things that are interactive beyond that too. I can't talk about ustwo without talking about these guys. So this is Mills and Sinks. They were 2 best friends from childhood, and that's why the name of the company is ustwo. We were founded about 2004, so we're about 12 years old now, so we're a bit beyond the startup stage. If you know Mills, he tweets things like this a lot. That's highly representative of what he's like as a founder in the studio as well. So I did want to mention this, mainly because I feel it's definitive of the culture that I've experienced at ustwo. We do engagement surveys and ways to measure how things are going in the studio, and 95% of London ustwobes have a best friend at work. And I think thinking about friendship as a principle in how you show up at work, so it's actually sometimes being a critical friend or showing that tough love thing that gets us into a place of growth. So just to give you a quick summary of some of the things that we use to describe our culture, we've got lists of values as well, and like Nilan, I won't kind of hammer them home to you in great detail, but we have kind of a few principles that we like to keep in mind most days. So this is about showing up, being human, and that is including all your flaws, not just the kind of lovey, cheesy bit. JFDI, which stands for Just Fucking Do It, which is a kind of bias for action. So getting on with things instead of just talking about them. And learn together is really important. So this is not just the learning bit, it's the togetherness bit too. So this is thinking about how are we on this journey, often in partnership with our clients as one team, figuring stuff out as we go along. And it won't always be things that go really smoothly. So we also have kind of made up words for that too, and we say succelia a lot. So I want to talk about the context too. So if we're thinking about the broader context, so outside of our business, kind of looking at it from a global perspective, there is a kind of cheesy acronym that some of you may have already heard of, but it's talking about the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, and the growing ambiguity that we're all kind of facing at the moment in this changing world, how digital is kind of messing stuff up for the incumbent banks and things like that, so we get excited by this. We think that there's a really great way to stay in that place of excitement about this changing world and not get freaked out, and it's to focus on what we can achieve through collectivity, so thinking about this concept of collective genius, and that's actually how we define our purpose. So this is another major thing about our mindset, so thinking about making great products. It's not you as a product manager telling engineers what to do. It's not just amazing code happening. It's not just a customer-centric mindset. It's all of that stuff coming together in a team context. So team is kind of a major thing for us, and we actually invest in it in quite an unusual way. So in each of our teams, as well as having that product manager or product lead, and engineers and designers, people who focus a lot on user research and people who are just knocking out incredibly beautiful design. And we also have someone who's a team coach, and that person's focusing on dynamics and making sure that everything's going smoothly. And by investing in that, it means that we can start working much faster as a team and achieving more together from really early on in our product cycle. So thinking about that, thinking about the team that you work with, I'm assuming most people here are working in a team context and not going it alone as a founder just now, but some of you may be quite kind of in that garage or bedroom startup stage. But thinking about the team that maybe you want to build around you and who you want to be in that team, you actually have to have some quite specific skills to thrive in that environment. So collaboration being the thing that we're going to solve complexity with means that you need to show up and bring all of your knowledge and expertise, but also you need to be ready to kind of embrace what other people are bringing to that setting. So these are what I would call your kind of real future of work skills. So actually getting self-aware, recognizing what you know about yourself, and then being able to share that with other people so that they can use that information. And being a bit ready to flex, depending on the context that you're in. So this is kind of a nice cheesy phrase, which is our reaction to the cheesy acronym of VUCA. But I really like this quote from Mills. So I don't know if people in the back can read this. So I am just going to read it out. So it's, we have to continually change. If we'd only focused on mobile apps, we would have stagnated and died. Being on your toes and learning the new technology is what keeps companies alive. So Mills's excitement for newness is completely infectious. It's the way that you can say, actually, change is happening, and that might be scary, but actually it's offering us all of this opportunity. And when you're first starting out, you might want to think about how you can get something out there quite soon. So I'm just going to touch on this idea of the MVP, and I want you to think about this a little bit as yourself, as a leader, and as someone at work being a high-performing team member. So I'm just going to ask you if you can give me a wave. Does everyone know what MVP stands for? Not most valuable player. So this is about getting your early doors concept out into your customers' hands so that you can validate whether it's worthwhile or not. And I like to draw this comparison because a lot of us will be using kind of things like lean product development, build, measure, learn, day to day. We'll be thinking about things in an agile sense, and we'll be thinking about user-centered design, and we'll be blending those processes into how we make products. It's certainly how we make products at ustwo. But often we forget that when we think about our own development, and we can plow on through the workplace doing things that maybe don't serve us so well, and maybe don't serve our customers that well either. So this is where we kind of look at how you can use applied learning, which is essentially when you make everything you make in your product being something you can learn from in your customer context. Think about everything that you do at work being something you can learn from for your development as an individual, as a leader. So this is a reflective learning practice cycle, so similar to your build, measure, learn. We call this commit, do, reflect. So this is kind of very simple and easy to remember. So think about what commitments you're making. Not everyone is a goal person. You don't want to write a SMART target every 2 weeks. But thinking about what you're moving towards, what's your personal mission, think about that overarching kind of vision that's keeping you focused. So what things are you committing to get you closer to that? And this is where JFDI comes in, because it's about not thinking about it and wishing that you could. It's about actually doing something and seeing if it works. So that would be a kind of experiment. It could be action. It could be taking a course even. But really, it's about just trying something out. And to be able to succeed in doing this, you kind of have to have it's definitely a work in progress mindset, and it's thinking about things as something that's fluid, that anyone can grow, that you can change what you're capable of. So it is a little bit about having kind of the appetite for it too. So this is a major, major thing. We've gone feedback mad at ustwo, but it's something that I think a lot of us do. I don't know could you give me a wave if you describe your product development as user-centered or user-focused? Do you do user testing or deep interviews with people? Right? Cool. Okay. So lots of people will become quite evangelical about that when they feel the benefits of having shown their product to a customer. And gone like, oh crap, we could have wasted loads of money and time building something that no one was going to use, and now we know how we can make it better. So can you give me a wave if you do that as often with feedback about yourself personally? Or whether you're as excited about doing it? And whether you manage it in the same way? And I think it's really, really hard to get started in asking for feedback, but trying to recognize the value that you can gain from it rather than the fear of making the wrong thing. So So think about kind of how you can do that. And I've got a few tips if anyone wants. I gave Hugo a masterclass in asking for feedback at our speaker dinner last week, so happy to do that for you later. So this is about that shift, so this work in progress mindset. And one of the leaders from the other studios uses this great expression, which is not being a VIP, but being a WIP. So we like to think of this as just recognizing that we're all not quite there yet. We don't hire people who would describe themselves as rock stars. We're all figuring stuff out. And the beautiful thing about being in a team is actually recognizing that we're all figuring it out together, and that's actually exciting and can be really rewarding too. And that's all the personal stuff as well as the product that you're making. So I just want to sort of summarize this, that kind of cycle again. So thinking about your commitments, so thinking about how good you are at estimation. I don't know if people here use Scrum, but I used to do this a lot, and we would recognize that our team maybe was overestimating things. So when you make those commitments, don't beat yourself up if your burn down on your goals isn't that hot. Just keep reviewing it and looking at how you can make it better. See where you've got opportunities to just fucking do it. See where in your career you're maybe not stretching yourself, or maybe in your team where you could take a lead. And this is another thing for me that I've really taken away as, on a personal note from ustwo, is that I've come from organizations where actually perfectionism as a behavior trait is encouraged, and being kind of making sure everything's just right before you show it to people. And I think just trying to embrace that a little bit and be ready to potentially make a fool of yourself is worth giving it a go. And when we think about Suxalia as well, when we think about that expression, this has come from us two recognizing that our amazing successes, products like Monument Valley, which was our first game that we'd had this kind of success with, was at the end of lots of things that hadn't gone so well. I think we had about 25 products that weren't even profitable. So recognizing that sometimes you'll have those knocks, but everything that you learned through that experience is what you'll need to take with you when that moment comes. So if it's a failure, it's not just throw it in the bin. It's like, what do we learn from this experience, and how can we keep going? So the final bit of that cycle was reflect. And we do what I call relentless reflection, which is we always make sure we have our retros as a team and do that group kind of understanding of what's happened, and also doing that reflection on a personal basis. So we have a peer coaching program, which means that that friendship that happens across the organization means that we can support that reflective process. And this is a little bit of just savoring things and just accepting that actually things aren't that kind of hard, really. You know, we are only building products. Some of our products really do help people change lives or in the medical kind of industry, but actually most things aren't going to be life or death. So trying to sustain your sense of humor, even when things feel like they're all going wrong, would be my only other takeaway. So you do have to laugh sometimes. So thank you very much. I hope that was speedy enough, Mathilde. Thanks, bye.